All right, so let's get started. So the first item on our to-do list here is to update the list students.jsp and add the new update link. So the main thing here is that we're going to have this new column that we're going to add, and this column is going to have an update link for each student. Now, this link will actually contain the embedded student ID, and we'll be able to use this later on when we need to pre-populate the form. We'll cover that later. But for right now, the main focus of this video is simply to create that new column and also create the update link for each student. All right, so let's go ahead and move into Eclipse. The main focus here is to update the list students.jsp and to add that new column. All right, so I have the file open. Let me go ahead and expand the file. And then let's move down to the section where we set up our table headers. And what I want to do here is add a new column. So I'll have a new column here called Action. All right, so we have our column in place now. Now the next thing we need to do is actually set up a reference here for the actual update link. So I'll set up a new column piece of information here, and instead of doing the real link for right now, I'll just put some little placeholder text just to kind of get us going for right now. So a little to-do comment to myself to add a link here. I just want to make sure that I have the normal HTML stuff laying out properly before I get into all of the link stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and test this file here for a second. So I'll just do a quick run. And okay, this looks good. So we have our new column called Action, and we have our little to-do statement for add a link here. So this is good so far. So we have the basics in place. Now let's get into all the fancy coding aspect of it. So I'll move back into my list students.jsp. And the main thing here is that I want to actually set up a link for each student. And in order to help me create these links, I'm actually going to make use of a JSTL feature called URL. So this will actually define a link to a URL, and we can also pass some parameters to it. So it's a very nice feature. So this is one of the JSTL tags we'll make use of here, and you'll see it kind of real world, see how it works. So I'm going to set up a variable name for that URL called temp link. And then for the value itself, I'll point to our student controller servlet. Now I have two parameters that I want to send over to this student controller servlet. The first parameter is I'll give the actual command. So we'll have a new command called load. Then the next parameter, which is really important, is the actual student ID. I want to be able to give the actual student ID of this student that I'm using right now. So I'll say temp student.id. And note here I'm using the JSP expression language to get the current ID of that student. So in effect, it's going to create multiple links here for each student with their embedded ID already in there. Now let me take this link and actually use it in my table, because up above we only defined it. We didn't actually display it or reference it. So here I'll set up an href and I'll point to this temp link that was defined up on line 43. And then I'll give the actual text that you'll see in the table, update. So this will basically create an href with the text of update, and then embedded is the actual temp link that has the command and the student ID. All right, so that's how we pull it together. That's how we can embed a link. Let's go ahead and test it out and see see how it works. So again, I'll go back to my application. I'll simply do just a refresh on this page. And cool, this looks good. So here's our action column. And now we have these href links called update. And if you just kind of scroll over each one of those links in the bottom left, you'll notice that the ID changes. And you may not be able to see it because of the video, But what I'll do is I'll actually copy one of these links and I'll just put it into a text editor just so you can see what's behind there. So here's one of the sample links there. So it's going to send something to the student controller servlet, command equals load, and student ID equals 5. So the really cool thing about it is that that value of student ID will change for each student. So each link has a unique student ID that it's pointing to because we built this up dynamically. So this is really cool. So we have the first part of it taken care of. In the following video, I'm going to show you how to update our controller servlet to actually read the command and also read the student ID and use that information to pre-populate the form. But this is a good first step, and we have a lot of good things coming up in the next video. So I will see you there.